over the time of a child's education. There's more information in the community update in general about the district, and I encourage everybody to take a look at that. It's on our website and our social media feeds, but since this has been such an important topic for our community, I wanted to make clear the items that we have provided this month related to that project.
Thank you, Dr. Rocco. I'm going to move on to any announcements from the Board of Education members. I'll start with Dr. McSheen.
Not today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Ferrara?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Thornton. Good evening, everyone. We have come to that time of year when the days go flying by and board members get invited to attend lots of fun events. This past Friday, as the board liaison to Klockner School, I was invited to the school's Arbor Day celebration. The weather was fantastic. Thanks to the township's Shade Tree Commission, 4 beautiful trees were planted on the property. 2 dogwood trees, an oak tree, and a cherry tree. And the students took a vote on which trees were going to go into the ground. Members of the Nottingham Garden Club were also present to help with planning. Additionally, Klockner's PTA, under the direction of President Aaron Caruso, made sure that every student had a cup of dirt and seeds to plant, and Mayor Martin also joined us that day. Thanks to a group of volunteers at Langtree, who are actually parent alumni, or parents of alumni is probably the better way to say it. The garden out front has been cleaned and reimagined on May 10th, December 10th, I'm going backwards. On May 10th, they will unveil what they are calling a Garden of Joy. This garden has a little free library, a bench dedicated to Joyce Palumbo, a former Langtree librarian who passed away in 2015. The volunteers have added birdhouses and new plantings. Several families painted stepping stones for the garden. The unveiling on May 10th begins at 10 a.m. You can stop by Langtree and then move on to the Azalea Festival in Sand Garden. On May 12th, members of the Alexander Elementary School community will receive the School Leader Award from the New Jersey School Boards Association for the school's rain garden project. The germ of an idea for a garden was funded by a grant from the Hamilton Education Foundation. In addition to the hard work of Alexander teachers, staff, and parents and the rest of the community, the rain garden was brought to life with the additional help of Rutgers Cooperative Extension, the Watershed Institute, and the New Jersey Audubon Society. The ceremony will be held at Lawrence High School, and I believe all my colleagues should have gotten an invitation. That's all I have, Ms. Thornton.
Thank you, Dr. Ferrara. Ms. Stanton?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I want to first briefly thank Reynolds Autism program for inviting me to their autism breakfast at the beginning of the month. That was fantastic. I also wanted to thank the New Brunswick School District for hosting me to see their pre-K edition, which will be a very similar model to what is being proposed here in Hamilton. It was beautiful, ran very well, and it was great to see what that would look like in action. In regards to that, I did have a few things I wanted to share. There are many pros to early childhood education using developmentally appropriate and innovative curriculum like that in the state of New Jersey. This is proven with the results of students in replicated studies, both nationally and internationally. As stated by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation for the Administration for Children and Families, participating in early childhood education helps children to develop skills that will benefit them in school and in life. Specifically, research from the U.S. shows that early childhood education can help students learn the foundational skills for reading, math, self-control, and positive relationships. All young children can benefit from high-quality early childhood education, like that in a public school program, but it can be especially helpful for children from families experiencing low household income, children with disabilities served in inclusive classrooms, and dual language learners. These are all populations that continue to grow in Hamilton Township, populations we represent. Additionally, early childhood education stimulates brain development, particularly in areas related to problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. Early childhood education provides opportunities for children to interact with peers, helping them develop essential social skills like sharing, cooperation, and empathy. In equitable early childhood programs with highly qualified teachers like those in Hamilton Township, children learn to express their feelings in a safe and supportive environment, building self-regulation and emotional resilience in preparation for kindergarten and beyond. Early childhood education provides a stronger foundation for academic success, resulting in improved performance in elementary school and those always looked over test scores. Early childhood education is also proven to be beneficial well beyond kindergarten. In fact, children who receive early childhood education are more likely to succeed in school, graduate from high school, and complete a bachelor's degree. Pre-K can instill a love for learning that can last a lifetime, a goal for all in Hamilton Township School District. I must say, although we might not agree on every detail of the future of our district, we cannot possibly expect results without change and modernization. We must invest in the future if we plan to keep up with the competitive world in which we live. I thank all the community members who have corresponded with me, most of which who have been in support of adding a pre-K addition to the Robinson Elementary School. That said, it is naive to think we can improve performance without implementing exactly what science shows prepares students for school, preschool, early childhood education. Even more so, it is selfish and reeks of privilege to suggest that families live within their means and mothers stay home with their children until kindergarten, as I was told via email. How do we suggest that to our growing population of families living under the poverty line, our single-parent households, the working grandparents and foster parents raising children? Let's be realistic, respect research, invest in our future, take the opportunity to be supported with the state grants offered now, and move forward toward a greater tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stanton. Ms. Harvey?
Yes, earlier this month I attended Tech Night and I wanted to congratulate the administration, the staff, the teachers, and everyone who came out from the community to participate in that event. I know a lot of students enjoyed seeing the different offerings that we have throughout the district. You know, Megan's son and my daughter enjoyed the program, so I just want to congratulate the tech department and the administration for a well-run outing. Also, I had the opportunity last night to go to the Langtree Elementary School Orchestra and Band Concert. It was a great show. Our little learners did a great job with the instruments. I think it's great that Hamilton offers elementary students the opportunity to learn instruments. I also want to point out that that program had to be run out of Crockett Stage because Langtree itself doesn't fit in its programming. So when we talk about our schools and our elementary schools in particular, they're stuffed to the gills. They can't even have a program for the parents of the students of that school. So I want to thank Crockett's administration for working so well with the elementary school to host them so that these students could have a chance to perform on stage for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Ms. Williams?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Ms. Byrne?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Thornton. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank Reynolds Middle School for hosting and inviting me to the Autism Breakfast. For those of us who live with autism, our children and grandchildren, we know that there are difficulties and challenges. Thank you for bringing awareness to this very important topic. I also attended the parent discussion with Dr. Rocco at Robinson for a question and answer session. And in part because I have heard our constituents' remarks and concerns, and in part because I have my own concerns, I'd like to encourage my colleagues to vote no for agenda item 15 under finance and operations. Which is the acceptance of the grant for the Robinson Pre-K. In hindsight, this board approving the motion in January of this year to enter into a $1.5 million contract with Spiesel, the architects, without first having done a professional traffic study was both careless and neglectful. We have heard, wow. We have heard feedback from many Hamiltonians, and this is a grave concern. When I was at Robinson for the parent meeting, there were many cones already set up for traffic. This addition of students and busing is sure to be problematic. Another major concern is the lottery system. Parents question how this will be effective in serving our universe of preschool students, and many families that will be impacted by traffic and waste management are no closer to knowing if their address will help their students attend this pre-K. We have been told several times that if we don't take this money, someone else will. This language is reminiscent to me of when my husband and I inadvertently found ourselves at a timeshare presentation. The language, "you gotta buy this now, you can't leave here, or this deal is off the table," honestly, it made me suspicious. And I don't want to buy a timeshare under duress, and I don't want to buy a preschool either unless it's a good fit for Hamilton. Many families have expressed their dislike with a centralized approach to pre-K, busing 4-year-olds across town and having them have to travel up many flights of stairs. We also don't know the interest rates of these bonds, the terms, and whether there will be additional expenses, especially in dealing with a 65-year-old building. Another constituent brought up that other communities have partnered with private pre-Ks and used the money that way. Wouldn't this be preferable rather than competing with our private sector, especially after COVID? Many have expressed that they would prefer to add on to existing schools and keep their children in the same school rather than sending their young children away. State funding is actually federal money allocated to the New Jersey DOE. This is an election year. Many things are in a state of transition. We are already seeking federal funds that we have extended, hoping for a refund. But what if that doesn't happen? There could be a loss of federal funding for a plethora of reasons. Policy 5756, for example, which this board, with my exception, just reaffirmed. But it flies in the face of the new federal law, which states that girls in their private spaces should be respected, as well as females having the opportunity to participate in sports against other born females. Yes, our current Attorney General is suing school boards who have elected to drop this policy because it's not mandatory. A new governor in November will have the opportunity to appoint a new Attorney General and the head of the DOE. Things could change in Hamilton. Furthermore, we heard from 2 former school teachers who taught science at Nottingham High School. Back in 2004, a project to install new science labs was never completed. Unfortunately, the old labs were converted into classrooms, and the new labs were still inoperable. Science students were deprived of most of their lab experience, and this was due to a limited budget, which resulted in non-functional, unfinished labs. I'm told New Jersey ran out of the money. This impacted both these teachers and their students. So unfortunately, federal funding is not a sure thing, and there are still many unanswered questions regarding this pre-K. Once again, I urge my colleagues to vote on this side of caution, rather than to take on this very expensive project that could result in buyer's remorse and additional taxes on our already overtaxed population. Thank you.
The motion continues the process to move forward to secure the financing from the Mercer County Improvement Authority to fund the district share of the preschool project of $17 million and pool conversion project of $10 to $12 million. The MCA must complete the financing prior to the district putting the project out to bid. The budget will have to take action to award this project once the bid, assuming the costs are within the project projected budget and financing. It looks like July could be the time frame for when the bidding process starts. The community, there was several community questions raised that were addressed by Mrs. Atwood and submitted into the board library.
Finally, the committee spent some time talking about the proposed preschool. Mrs. Byrne asked in committee if the district could work with existing preschools. Ms. Audino told us that she has reached out to private preschools in the area several times, only to be told that they have no room. We also discussed the fact that the motion we are voting on this evening merely involves accepting the grant money from the state and authorizing the architectural firm to submit the final plans for the building. And that's the conclusion of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Seeing that there are no other questions, we will move on to hearing of the public on agenda items. I will start with Brenda Julian. Please remember, you have 4 minutes at the microphone.
Good evening, Board. Is this on? I have 2 things I wanted to touch, and they come together. One was last month we had the state test results publicized, as well as the idea of our preschool, and they do marry together, I promise. The recent release of our district's academic assessment results underscores the reality that no one can no longer ignore. Our students' academic performance remains heavily influenced by socioeconomic status, and consequently, racial disparities persist. White and Asian students from high-income families typically perform better on state assessments, not solely due to the innate ability of them to perform better, but that they have the resources to provide essential extracurricular and educational supports. For Black and Hispanic students who disproportionately face economic challenges, the absence of these supports translates directly into lower academic achievement. These disparities are not merely numbers, they represent real students whose futures hang in the balance. Additionally, it's crucial to recognize that state test scores now include many English language learners and students with intellectual disabilities. Those scores were previously not included in Hamilton's overall performance metrics. This inclusion, while reflective of a more comprehensive picture, means that comparisons with past performance can be misleading unless this context is understood. And to meaningfully address these performance gaps, we must prioritize funding and resources to equalize educational opportunities. Public school preschool programs, in particular, have demonstrated the power of early intervention, helping disadvantaged children raise to the level of their peers by addressing developmental and learning gaps before they've widened. Early education sets a solid foundation and can profoundly impact children's educational trajectory and lifelong outcomes. Sadly, when community members come who question the funding and establishment of public preschools at last month's meeting also complained about our failing schools, their positions seem disingenuous. Those who narrowly focus on test scores without supporting increased investment in education are not genuinely seeking solutions. Instead, they risk deepening community divisions and perpetuating cycles of inequality. True progress requires a commitment to fully funding our schools, ensuring that every student, regardless of background, has the opportunity to thrive. Moreover, investing in our schools has benefits far beyond the classroom. Communities with high-performing schools attract families and talent. Strong academic institutions bolster property taxes, making Hamilton a desirable place to live and work. Therefore, the health of our schools is intrinsically linked to the economic prosperity and overall well-being of our entire community, not just families with school-aged children. Let us commit to a future where Hamilton students and schools reflect the best of our collective ambitions, where each child's potential is nurtured, and where the community's strength is measured not by division, but by our shared success. Increased educational funding is not merely an expense, it's an investment in our children's future and the prosperity of Hamilton itself. And for those that come up and want to tear down our schools because of our scores and not look at ways in which we can increase our enrichment in our children, are not here for solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Julian. John Muka?
Good evening, everybody. I'm not sure how people are misunderstanding the things that a lot of us are coming to this board about. We don't want to put a stop. We're not trying to stop pre-K education. We're trying to make the best choices for a $30 million project here. So let me address some of the misinformation that's out there. Traffic study. It's great that the traffic study is being done. I've been asking about that. A simple email to say that it's in process would have been helpful. But we can't do that. We have to wait till the day of to put out a missive that says all the things that are happening. Now, let's just focus for a moment on the Robinson Pre K and the issue of why it is a one centralized building. Well, it started out that way in 2023 when the application was first made. Well, there were three buildings were listed, or maybe there was 3 separate submissions. I don't really know, it's not clear at this point. But in any case, just in December, the other 2 buildings were turned down, and now we're left with just the Robinson facility. Maybe if we had thought through this from the beginning and applied for multiple locations, we could have had 5 or 7 or 10 places, I don't know. But it all started with that. That's part of the narrative that we need to be familiar with. Now, as far as it being more expensive to do it at a decentralized locations, I'm just using the figures that I've been provided from the report and what we've heard from Dr. Rocco. So you take a $30 million building divided by 47,000 square feet, it's $629 per square foot. In that same project plan, the strategic plan, you're quoting prices of $429 or up to $509 per square foot to add extensions for other purposes in the buildings. So I'm just trying to understand why you keep saying it's more expensive. I'd like to see the rationale. I'd like you to show me the work, how that comes out, because I don't understand. The MCIA bonds, now it's not 17 million, now it's 28 million. Well, that's good. Now we know that the pool project is going to cost $10 million. I've listened to a lot of things, but I didn't know how much that number was. The question still remains, what is the total interest payments that are going to be necessary for a $28 million loan? All right, so, there's a little bit in the report that came out today. It doesn't come to the bottom line number. So we need to know that. And we also need to have a study that goes in detail and says if we did it at 5 or 7 locations, if possible, how much would it cost? So we have a comparison to say, pre-K done well at the Robinson School cost X dollars, pre-K done well in a distributed way costs more, costs less, whatever. There's incredible benefits to maintaining our decentralized system with the local schools. We're always worried about getting the parents involved. The parents are going to be more involved if the location is right down the street from where they live and they run into other people whose kids are in that same school than if it's a big 350 size large building in a lot that doesn't really have space for it. So this is all about trust. And we're going to need some trust because that adequacy numbers are going to be a problem down the road. And we need trust in the taxpayers and the parents to step up and, yes, fund the schools. Yes, I'm all for that. I'm getting the impression we're not spending enough money here. And we got to go to the voters and we got to get more money. But we got to do it and we got to spend it the right way. We need a process that generates trust, not mistrust. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muka. Carolyn Cashel, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Sorry.
Yes, I am with my fellow residents requesting that the board table the vote until due diligence is done.
I do apologize. Can you just move a little closer to the microphone? Thank you very much.
A nonpartisan traffic study needs to be completed and available for community review. To vote before this is done is premature, if not reckless and irresponsible. Also, we would like to see, what are the implications, what are the impact of the building with runoff to the neighboring properties? What is that going to do to, we're already having issues with that, with the development of Sharps Farm. And also the traffic, getting back to that, it's already a problem on that street. There's speeding, there's traffic, parking issues. It really needs to be looked at. To take this vote now is premature and actually, we really believe irresponsible. You have to get this done and let us look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cashel. That actually concludes the hearing of the public on agenda items. So I am going to move to the agenda. Dr. Ferrara, can you take us through curriculum and instruction agenda items? Okay, Ms. Byrne.
I would like to make a motion to table motion 15 until we get that traffic study.
Do I have a second? Okay, seeing that I do not have a second, I cannot move the motion forward. Excuse me. I am going to ask for you to please be courteous. You cannot shout from the audience. You will have an opportunity to come up for public hearing. You did at the first session. There will be a second session. I am following the rules. There was no second. I cannot move it forward. Thank you. Ms. Byrne, do you have any other questions in regards to the agenda items?
No.
Ms. Williams, do
Yes.
you have any questions?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No questions. Ms. Harvey?
I would like to make a comment.
Okay.
In 1962, Robinson was constructed. It's fair to say that the homes grew up around Robinson rather than the reverse. I've received feedback regarding the proposed preschool. Overall, the community supports this concept in having a preschool. The negatives I've heard in the request to vote down motion 15 appear to miscomprehend the approvals on tonight's agenda. Tonight's motion 15 merely means a yes vote is to approve the architectural plans and receipt of the state grant. A no vote on the motion means there will be no preschool constructed in the future using the grant money. It means one of the 590 other educational districts will receive that money. It means where we could have 40% of the construction costs financed by the taxpayer in these other 590 districts, any future plan for a preschool in Hamilton would be 100% funded by the Hamilton taxpayers alone, requiring a referendum and tax increase. Imagine driving on the Parkway. There's an express lane and a local lane, and there are exit lanes. The request for a no vote argue that they do not want us in the express lane, but we're not in that lane. We're in the local lane. Moreover, the effect of the no vote does not keep us on the local lane. It puts us at an exit-only lane without re-entry. The board is actively listening to your concerns, and we've been improving the project as we talk to more and more people. In the last few weeks, we've added the traffic study. We've also asked for a redesign of the exterior to address certain concerns, including traffic and safety. Let's remember, districts who have adopted universal pre-K have increased their property values. They've also, importantly, increased their students' achievement. And that's what this board should be focused on. Time and again, the board hears complaints about test scores. The best way to improve scores is by having a universal pre-K offered to all residents. It does not mean all residents have to go for pre-K, but we should move forward in order to offer it. The current plan does not even provide all seats for all residents. It's just one step forward instead of one step stagnation. Not only do studies show improvement in K through 12 students who had pre-K, but the studies further show learning loss when elementary students are in classes mixed between those who had a pre-K and those who didn't, because the other kids have to catch up. We can address this learning loss right now because our pre-K, unlike other private ones, have certified teachers. They're not minimum wage workers who are just acting as babysitters. They're certified teachers who will be funded with grant money that's available. To address the three main concerns that I've heard: 1, traffic study. It's in the works. 2, the cost for decentralized preschools will be the same, but it wouldn't. Not only do we not qualify for the 40% to be wholly covered by other taxpayer money, with Hamilton taxpayers contributing only 1/590th of that 40%, but the cost would be far more expensive than a $30 million addition to Robinson, which be its own separate entrance, its own separate building. It doesn't take away from the character of Robinson because it's closed off. You cannot access the preschool from the elementary school. The cost to construct 23 different preschools for elementary schools is impractical, as there's no state grant offsets, and the cost will require each of them to have their own architectural plans, site costs, project management, traffic studies, and others for each location, including, importantly, the renovations to the other part of the school. I noted earlier that Langtree can't even have a concert in its cafetorium. It can't fit it right now. And yet you want to add to a decentralized school to these schools that don't have the capacity. These schools, as the Strategic Facilities Long-Term Plan noted, don't have a music room. They don't have an art room. They are stuffed to their capacity. By building this preschool, it takes that weight off so that we can eventually transition to do these additions to the elementary schools that need it. The third thing that was noted is the cost for the 60% part of the financing, which is a bond from the Mercer County Improvement Authority. The rate for that interest is set by the contract at the time that it is awarded, but that hasn't occurred yet. It hasn't occurred yet because we're not at the end. We are still moving forward. It is a process that we have to build upon. But the bond, importantly, requires no additional tax levy. The same cannot be said if we decentralize and construct at preschools at the other schools. As of the reports on the State Department of DOE's site, as of 2022 to 2023, only 3 other towns in Mercer County offer pre-K. But in the counties that adjoin us, 45 offer it. We need to catch up so that we can help our property values go up, so that we can help our test scores go up. The test scores in the other towns in Mercer that offer it reflect this benefit. And if something is learned that says we shouldn't proceed, we still have time. We're not in the express lane. We are in the local lane, and we are taking our steps forward. It's not ripe to pull into the exit-only lane at this time. So I'm asking the board to approve motion 15.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Ms. Stanton?
No questions. I did want to reiterate, though, that this evening we are not voting to approve this entire project and to start moving forward on it immediately. We are voting just to accept funding and to send over architectural drafts. This is not us saying that we're breaking ground tomorrow. This is not any of us even voting yes, deciding that this is what we want as a final project. This is just the steps forward. As we've heard from the superintendent, as we've heard from our business administrator, as we've heard from the architectural firm, we still have many avenues out of this. Tonight's vote is not solidifying anything long-term.
Thank you, Ms. Stanton. Dr. Ferrara?
I have talked to a number of young parents over the last couple of weeks. And Mr. Kanka and I have had a number of conversations about when the last time there was a school built in this district, talking about what past boards promised to do and never came to fruition. I remember a big grandstanding, let's go look at Hamilton High West, and we're going to make changes there for the good of students, and it never happened. One young father said to me, "Do you understand that you have the power right now to make generational change. It was a very striking moment for me that, yes, I can't live in the past. The past is done. We're living right now, and we have the ability to majorly impact the future of the kids in this township. I look out, and the people who are opposing the preschool are not young parents. The young parents in this town are really kind of excited with the whole idea. One parent said to me, my kid might not even make the lottery, but the fact is that we are starting to go in the right direction. We have had letters saying that parents should stay home and take care of their children. Well, that's not a reality for many people. And we can't impose that reality and say you have to stay home and take care of your preschooler. But we can make this a more vibrant educational community and offer our parents who want preschool the opportunity to send their children to a public preschool. As Ms. Harvey pointed out, the preschools, private preschools, only need 1 or 2 certified staff members to cover themselves under the law. A public preschool has certified teachers who are taught how to teach preschool. One of the things I was hoping Ms. Stanton would mention, and she might go back and talk about it, is she did get to visit the preschool. I was very concerned about 2 stories until she came back and said to me, you know what? There'll be 2 hand railings, one for the adults and one for the kids. That's great. That helped me understand that, okay, we can get by with a 2-story building. I really am frustrated by the negative comments about this preschool, about bringing kids from other places to Robinson. It's very offensive to me. As Ms. Harvey said, we are looking at every step. I talked to Dr. Rocco the other day because several of you have talked about water runoff. And I said to Dr. Rocco, instead of putting a retention basin in, we should look to put rain garden in, just like they're putting in rain gardens at the municipal building. And that way we have a living lab. We address the water problem, we have a living lab on the property. We have to look to the future for the future of Hamilton. If at some point the tariffs kick in and we can't afford it, or the bond interest comes back and it's astronomical, we're wise enough up here to know what we have to do. But as Ms. Harvey said, we're not there yet. So I will be voting yes, even though if you had talked to me a week ago, Ms. Thornton can tell you, I was not on board with this. But it's the young parents who are talking to us, who are asking us to do right by them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farrar. Dr. McShane?
So it's challenging for me to speak on this because as Dr. Farrar pointed out, I am one of those young parents. Well, maybe I'm not young, but I'm a parent of young children. I like to think I'm young, though, as well. You're young. I'm young. Great. Thank you. And like, just to lay it out there, as a parent, I've got 3 kids. One is in elementary school. One is in her last year of pre-K, will become a kindergartner soon in our district. And one will be turning 2 at the end of the summer, so he's a little younger. I know for just my pre-K kid, I have to pay in the neighborhood of $1,500 a month for a pre-K class. I am fortunate enough that both my wife and I work, and we are hopefully, fingers crossed, stable enough to be able to commit to that. But thinking back to my life, as a young child, I was a Head Start child because my parents were not in the same situation I am in now. But speaking to that exact point, I believe it was my experience as a Head Start child, which, if you're unfamiliar, Head Start's a federally funded program that allows kids to attend preschool. And I was fortunate enough, because of this Head Start Pre-K, to enter elementary school at a relatively equal level as my peers who did go to Montessori schools and had parents in a better economic situation at the time. And that has not left me for a second, knowing that my friends have, very amazing people. I adore them still to this day. They've become doctors and scientists and educators and engineers and all of these things. And I was among them. And I know the importance that the Head Start program allowed me to do, or allowed me to, what they instilled in me, and just being able to come in at a comparable level. Now, we've heard throughout this year how children and students starting kindergarten are increasingly not at that level, not where they need to be, to the point of some of them being unable to use the restroom without assistance. It is programs like Head Start in my position, but Pre-K, whether private or publicly funded, that allow kindergartners to start on the right foot. And playing into what some of my colleagues have pointed out, you need to start right, or at least it's better to start on the right foot if you want to help diminish those achievement gaps, to help provide the best starting point for the students. And I would like to imagine that most of the people in this room are on a similar page. I think we all want our students to be the best they can be, and we want them to have the programs that can allow them to do that. And I'm sorry, it is emotional for me, and I'm trying to hold that back a little bit, and I'm not a very emotional person, so that's kind of funny on my end. Now, to bring it to what we're facing with today. Like my colleagues around the table, we've all received emails, we've all had private conversations, pro and negative or con against the ideas of Pre-K in general, of the Robinson edition specifically. And I think as a group of people, we have to, and as a board specifically, we have to look at the question in front of us at each step of the way and say, and make our educated decision whether or not we can approve that specific piece in a process. Now, the question, I've got many questions, and I think we've heard many questions. One thing I keep hearing is that this is the centralized Pre-K program, and I don't think that's accurate, so I just want to make sure. From what I've heard, the Robinson Pre-K edition will host hopefully a larger number of Pre-K students, but we have Pre-Ks happening in the district already at different schools. So my question is, will the Pre-K that's established at Robinson get rid of those extra Pre-K programs that are happening?
No, some of those will be brought in, but there will be Pre-K programs that remain around the district.
Okay.
And typically around Pre-K disabled classes, special needs classes.
Okay, so it's not a definitive centralized program as designed, as there will be additional seats in the district throughout different buildings. And I just want to hammer on the point that nothing gets cheaper. Nothing gets cheaper, and time is ticking, right? We have students who are unable to afford the $1,500 a month pre-K classes. We have students, or future students who will not have the benefit of having someone who can stay home and help them. I'd argue many in my generation, that's not really feasible. And I just want to make sure that we are, like a lot of people in the crowd, we're doing our best to do our due diligence, but also not terminate anything prematurely. So a second question I have is, if we vote tonight to accept this grant money, is there any encumbrance on us? Is there any specific, do we owe anything to anyone?
Or a penalty?
Without, any penalty, thank you. If we do not end up continuing as a board on this specific project.
I'll defer to Ms. Atwood, but when it comes to state funding or Mercer County Improvement Authority, no. There have been some costs that we've incurred associated with planning and site and the traffic study. Those are costs that we're doing to prepare.
Okay. And to that point, if we were to look at other plans or whatever down the line, this is still one that I think should be on the table. And we would have had to, not had to, but would have had the opportunity to address anyway. And I think for those reasons, I'm voting yes on this tonight, with the faith that us as a board and the administration will be taking steps to make sure that we are doing this in a solid way, in a way that's not harmful to us or our students. And with the hope that, we're not waiting 20 years to develop and add relocatables to schools that might not be able to house them in a way that's coherent. And as we all know, many of our schools are 60, 70, 80 years old. How much longer are they going to exist? And if anyone wants to sell some land for a little bit of money and we're able to put more schools on, feel free to let me know. But to be serious again, this is, when I close my eyes, I think of the students who are unable to attend pre-K, who would have benefited this, and I don't want to, for us as a district, 10 years in the future, 15 years in the future when they're graduating, say, wow, we really missed an opportunity, especially with other districts moving ahead, especially with test scores that are lower than we're hoping for. We have an opportunity to do something different. And I understand as a homeowner, as someone who from day to day is struggling to keep his lawn mowed and is angry when someone speeds down my little street because I do have kids. I'm definitely aware and can empathize with a lot of the concerns I've heard. So just wanted to put that out there, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McSheen. Ms. Williams?
I just want to say one thing, that I know that everybody here in the audience, I think that there's one thing, even with the emails that we've received, there's one thing that I think unifies all of us in this, is that I think everybody agrees that we should have a pre-K in our district. I think that where maybe the disagreement's coming in is where it is. So I just want to say, we hear you here, but I think that what we're presented with right now are the tools to move forward on a vote tonight, just to, approve the plans and approve acceptance of it. It's still going to have, steps towards the final approval of building the pre-K. But I think that what we all up here are trying to do, because we know that, everybody, I hope, is on the same page that we need a pre-K. We want to move forward. We want to provide that. We want to grow our district. We need to invest in our district. But this is grant money that is allowing us to not, even if we decentralized and we had several pre-Ks across the district, that is going to be a significant increase in taxpayers, right? And I think we're trying to avoid that because we have an opportunity to have, maybe call it a pilot program where you have a pre-K that's able to provide and offer those services to our young students to move us forward. All of the districts around us have pre-K. I mean, why not us, right? And I think that that's something that we can all build on together as a community, because I think we're all there saying that we want pre-K. We just need to figure out the best way where, you know, we don't want to increase and raise taxes, but at the same time, we need to move forward, and this is what we have right now. So the motion tonight to vote to move forward to accept the grant money and to, you know, approve those plans, not break ground. It is going to be baby steps, but it's something that I think that, honestly, like, let's focus on what's really bringing us together is the fact that we do want to move forward. It's the pre-K, right? So that's all I wanted to say. So thank you guys for everybody coming out and for reaching out to us. If you've reached out to us for the pros and the cons, we appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Seeing that I have no other questions or comments from Ms. Byrne.
Well, obviously, from my previous little talk, I align myself with the taxpayers and the homeowners who are here this evening who have concerns, who don't feel that we are doing this in the correct order. And I agree with that. I just don't see how we can take a vote to accept grant money when we haven't seen a permanent traffic study. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it's very disingenuous, honestly, to say that this is not going to raise taxes. No matter how we do it, when we do it, if we do it, it's going to raise taxes for the community because eventually the grants will run out. You will have to continue to fund the teachers, the supplies, and everything. And I just think, you know, we're saying we're getting grant money, yes, but I do think in the long run it will raise taxes. So I don't think that's, you know, a genuine statement. So, you know, for the community who does not want this at this school because they're concerned about waste management and traffic, I'm not sure how we, you know, go forward. I will be voting no because I don't want to continue on this process until I know more about the traffic. And I guess in the next couple weeks, maybe we'll get a professional study done, and it might say, what? If it says something to the effect that it's just not going to be good for the residents, will my colleagues then agree to not continue on this path? Because with each vote and each month that goes by and it gets closer to becoming to fruition, I feel it's going to be harder to turn this down. And so I don't want to continue down this path because there's too many unanswered questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Byrne. Seeing that there are no other questions or comments, this time, Ms. Atwood, can you take a roll call, please?
Mr. Kanka?
Yes.
Dr. McSheen?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Emphatically, yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Byrne?
No, motion 15, yes to the rest.
Dr. Farrar?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
I'm abstaining from number 9, page 54, purchase order 2503940, yes to the rest.
Ms. Thornton?
Yes.
Motion's passed.
Lisa Linkowski?
Good evening. Great to see everyone. And I'm actually going to piggyback on something that was just touched upon that occurred to me. My high school son had to take 2 days of testing for something yesterday and today, and he commented that it was very silly because they're trying to prepare for AP testing next week, and they lost a whole bunch of time in the classroom. So just going to point that out. Anyway, Lisa Linkowski, I am the administrator with, one of the administrators with Hamilton Township Community Supporting Education, HTCSE, and thank you, board, for passing the budget today, 2026 budget. There are numerous districts across our state that are facing incredible challenges. Jersey City has a $4 million reduction in state aid. Cape May City schools have a 27.29% cut. Newark schools are facing significant gap. Burlington County, 15 school districts are projected to experience cuts in state aid, and Bordentown, as many know or do not know, is closing one of their schools and cut nearly 50 positions, or eliminated or reduced several academic and extracurricular offerings. Asbury Park cut 27 jobs due to a 20% loss in state funding. Dennis Township, don't even know where that is, they are discontinuing their courtesy busing service due to a $4.3 million reduction in state aid over the past 6 years. So lots and lots of challenges, and yet we had one of the most crowded Board of Ed meetings in a while here, and not a single question. And yet I hear constantly that the board is not transparent, that no one knows where the money is going. And yet you come here every month saying, step by step by step, this is what we're doing with the budget. This is how it's going to be going, laying everything out. And people do not appreciate how hard it is for what you just put together. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. All right, also, 2025 Board of Elections are up, coming up in November, and we posted that the deadline to apply is July 28th, and there are 3 positions that are up for election, Dina Thornton, Stacy Byrne, and Dr. McSheen. Regarding the preschool, the room cleared out for some unknown reason, as if they don't have any other concerns other than a preschool that may or may not be built in our town. But for those that might be listening still, and that this is their first time, there have been facilities meetings taking place for years, and the community has now just decided to show up and say something or not and walk away. I understand the concern about strings attached to grants, but unlike a timeshare, grants are transparent, competitive funding opportunities designed to support our students and district priorities, not to trap us. The requirements ensure accountability and responsible use of public funds. If we avoid every opportunity that has conditions, we risk missing out on valuable resources our community could benefit from. If people are worried about traffic, go visit one of our many schools like Greenwood, Kistart, Klockner, McGalliard. Go take a moment and see what it looks like over there every single day, where the traffic is a complete nightmare for pickup and for drop-off. So I live actually in the Robinson Elementary School District, and I thank you very much for passing tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Linkowski. Chanel Vickers Ames.
Hello. Chanel Vickers Ames, a lifelong Hamiltonian. I just wanted to come up here and say that there are parents and community members that do appreciate all of the time that you, the board, put in for the changes that are needed for all the children in our district. And some of us do understand that every decision made cannot please every person in this district, but every decision is made for the best interest of all of our children. And also, some people need to understand, or do understand, that there are challenging situations that require certain decisions, and we hope, and I know, it is handled on a case-by-case basis. And I just wanted to extend my gratitude to the board and all your time.
Thank you, Ms. Vickers-Ames. John Muca?
Good evening again. My name is John Muca. I'm a lifelong Hamilton resident. You know, we came here tonight to try to have a conversation. And in fact, that's what the emails are about too, to have a conversation. We didn't really come here to try to engender more conflict. You know, I think we've been trying to I don't know what all the emails are, I didn't write them all, but most of the people I talk to are reasonable people. We're just trying to find out what's going on. We're very surprised about the idea that this big building was going to be placed at the Robinson campus, because they had no warning. Yet the plan was afoot 18 months ago. The conversation should have started then. So now we're surprised. And make no mistake about it, this building is going to be built at Robinson. So stop with there's other places we could stop along the line. We're going down this track. Now maybe we can downsize that building, make it half the size, and spread a little bit of that goodness to some of the other facilities. And maybe we got to pay our own money for that. We got to convince the taxpayers it's a worthwhile investment. We got to start having those conversations. We're just going to have more conflict all the time when we come to these meetings. Now, I didn't come here for conflict, but I'll tell you, when I send emails in and all I get back from a few people is read and, opened and read your email. That's not a conversation. It's not helpful to me, and it's not helpful to anybody else that I'm trying to talk to. And Dr. McSheen, I appreciate what you're going through. You are a young parent or a parent of young children, whichever way you want to say it. But let's also honor the grandparents. There's a lot of grandparents picking those kids up after school, and they're working with them on their homework, and they want to see their grandchildren succeed. I have 2 grandchildren. I actually want them to succeed more than I ever wanted my own kids to succeed, because I've got time to see what they're up against, and they're up against a lot in today's world. So please listen. Open your ears and listen. We're not against pre-K. I don't think any grandparent that's spending time with their grandkids is against a pre-K, but it's got to be done the best way possible, and you've got to gain that trust by engaging in a conversation and being open about the fact that the strategic plan itself, it says multiple locations, different ways of doing it, but then at the bottom, for cost, all of a sudden we're in one place. Now, what if the state had approved all 3 sites? We'd be doing 3. Because we know that would be better than putting it all on one site. Now, here's the basic theme that bothers me and bothers a lot of folks. We're always trying to create more distance here between the parents and their children. Policy 5756 creates more distance between parents and their children, or it's possible that it can. That doesn't engender trust. And now we're centralizing the pre-K. And then the rest of the plan is to put the 7th and 8th grade students all together in one location, further from the parents. We're worried about parents' involvement. The parents are worried about what are their kids up to. You're making it harder by going down this path. We got to find ways to make it easier. And you can engage grandparents in helping the kids at the pre-K if you want to, if they're right down the street. It's harder to drive across town to be helpful. So please consider those things. Let's try to generate conversations, reduce the conflict. And thank you for all your hard work. I honor every one of you. I don't know why you're on the school board. It's a kind of a thankless task at times, but thank God we have a school board that we can spread all this work out among. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muca. Rose Griegel?
Yeah, Rose Griegel, Hamilton resident for 20 years. I just wanted to say that I don't think that the fact that the room cleared out is a bad thing. I think those are concerned and upset people. And no, they might not show up every month and all of a sudden they appear, but this fell into their laps. Because I asked several people, residents, parents, they only know of this in the last month or 2. And so it's not appalling that they don't show up every single month to every single school board meeting.
They have a legit concern. It's not that they don't care about kids, and I appreciate Ms. Harvey's testimony about how preschool is the only thing that can save the children, but that's not true. Parents and grandparents do care about their kids, and the residents are concerned about the safety. That's why they're concerned about the traffic pattern. And that, to me, when I was looking, I've been to Robinson Preschool, and looking at it from a map, it literally backs right up to a whole bunch of homes. It's a 2-story building. Getting a bunch of 3- and 4-year-olds, I know you said there's going to be 2 sets of handrails. Usually most schools, almost every school, the lower grades are on the bottom of a school if there's several stories. That's almost every school I've known of. The lower, if they have older kids, they go up top. I see that as actually a hazard to have a bunch of 3- and 4-year-olds if they had to evacuate in case of an actual fire, going down 2 flights of steps. That to me, that in itself sounds like a safety concern, let alone a traffic pattern. We know that I heard, a child was hit by a car somewhere. Mr. Kanka said, well, where were the parents when that happened? That it was the parents' fault. You guys pick and choose what is or is not where we should be involved and where we shouldn't be. These parents are concerned. You don't like what you hear, and you don't think they should say anything. And then when they do, you're not looking out for future generations, or you don't care about a certain group of people that kids are, whether they're transgender or whatever, if it doesn't fall in line with your way of thinking. And so sometimes you want to blame the parents, like when that kid got hit crossing the Wendy's, you said, where were his parents? Okay? But, then there's times you want to say to us, it's not your concern. Kids have the right to go in, choose what book they want to read, whatever. You pick and choose, and it's kind of obvious where you do pick and choose. And also, before my time runs out, I would speak more on this subject, but I said some things at the last school board meeting that had to do with Mrs. Byrne. You can come to me. I didn't have a conversation with her. I'm talking to, I'm directing this towards you two. You can come to me. I know you've got my emails. I know you have my phone numbers. I didn't have a conversation with Mrs. Byrne separately. I've been observing this since she's been on the school board, the treatment, and I had an opportunity to say something, and I did. So if you want to talk to me and find out what my concerns are, I also know she showed up to a PTA meeting of the presidents. I know.
Ms. Griegel, your time is
And
up. I do apologize.
she was asked to
We're going to
leave.
be courteous to the next individual. Your time is up.
All right, well, she
Thank
was
you, Ms.
asked to
Griegel.
leave from a PTA meeting, and I only
Griegel,
know that not
your
from her.
time
I know that
is
from one of
up.
the PTA presidents, that you asked her to leave,
Your
Dr.
time
Rocco.
is up. Thank you. Pat Stanzione, and I apologize if I did not say your last name correctly.
I have a question. Doesn't Hamilton Township
Closer
offer,
to the microphone, I'm sorry.
doesn't Hamilton Township offer preschool for 4-year-olds in 8 schools? Greenwood, Klockner, Wilson, Cooser, Kishart, Yardville Heights, McGalliard, and Layler all offer half-day preschool for 4-year-olds. Is that correct?
So Ms. Stanzione, we normally do not answer the questions, but you're asking a very specific question. I'm going to ask Dr. Rocco if he would answer that for you.
We offer very limited preschool program through our Title I buildings. We also offer preschool disabled, which is required by law. So we do have a small number of schools that have seating for students. That is
Okay, you don't know how many children are in these programs, right?
Mr. Scotto, do you know the number of students that typically enroll?
We have to cap it at 90.
Okay. My point being that, it seems as though it keeps saying that Hamilton doesn't offer preschool. I know it does in some limited amount. Okay, first of all, I am going to thank you all for the time because I know it takes you time. I respect the time that you give, but I am going to say, the lady in orange, I want to thank you for acknowledging that just because someone doesn't agree with this program is not against preschool. My children went to preschool, my grandchildren go to preschool. I really find it very insulting to hear people, some of the board members, lecturing about the value of preschool. And I think everybody that's here really does want preschool for our children and our grandchildren. And I just want to make that point that some people just don't think this is a good program. And rushing this program before a lot of these things are taken care of and understood, I don't think it's in the best interest of our community. And preschool is definitely very important. We all agree with that. Everybody that's here, I'm sure, agrees with that. But I, again, feel that you're rushing into this. It's one big building. You're going to be busing all these children. And it's a lot. It's a lot. I think we should backstep a little bit and really review it further until you know all the facts, which I don't think you do. And I know the last meeting I went to at Grace, Mr. Rocco, a lot of the answers that you gave were proposed. And I understand. You don't have, I respect that. But that's another reason why I feel that rushing into this is not the best thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tanzione. So that was the last speaker for hearing of the public, so I'm going to... Ms. Stanton?
I also just wanted to say my praises about Tech Night. It was fantastic. I know Ms. Harvey had mentioned that her daughter and my son were there. We're not going to let Dr. McSheen's children know that they missed it. But my son, who's a third grader here in the district, of course, and is a self-professed scientist, was thrilled with the offerings, between the drone things, between the fact that he thinks that he was taught how to drive a vehicle now. So he's ready for highway driving at this point. With the simulators, some of the flying simulators, it was fantastic to just see that these things were offered to all of our community that evening, but also to know that those are the things being taught in our schools. And that was really also exciting for him because when he realized that these are things that he can do every day once he gets to middle school and high school, well, he's motivated. So I do want to, again, thank everyone for that. And I want to drive the point home that my bringing up the pros and the importance of early childhood education is as someone who worked in early childhood education for the first half of my career. And B is as a board member that was responding to some of the emails, one of which was saying that preschool is babysitting. So I felt it was important for the community to understand the statistics and the facts around early childhood education. And I, again, do have to say that in the beginning, I was a little bit nervous myself about a second floor for a preschool. I was able to go to New Brunswick and view a very similar addition that was also used state grant money. And my main reason for being nervous about that is because I've done it myself and I do know the work that it takes to bring 3- and 4-year-olds downstairs. When I first started my career, it was at one of the most prestigious schools in North Carolina, which was a 2-story building. But something that Ms. Aldino reminded me of, something that the director in New Brunswick reminded me of, is that this is another opportunity for children to learn another skill. Because not every child lives in a house that has multiple floors, but they're going to need to learn how to use stairs. So that actually becomes part of the curriculum, is learning how to do these things that they need for if they're, then going to elementary schools, many of which have second floors. If they're going to be at shopping malls, if they're going to apartment complexes, we know that they're going to need to learn how to do stairs anyway, and this gives us a safe and controlled environment with brand new state-regulated stairs to do so. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Stanton.
Ms. Thornton, can I just dovetail on the stairs? To Ms. Stanton's point, if you go into Greenwood School, the door, a flight of stairs greet you at the door, and you have, and Layla too, and you have to go up the stairs to get to the kindergarten room. So that's an excellent point that you make, and I too talked to Ms. Audino, who explained that this is just part of learning, which is, I get it. Back in the day, parents taught their kids how to do that. We're not back in the day. It's not 1955, it's 2025, and we have to adapt. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Dr. Farrar. Ms. Stanton, is there anything else that you had?
No, I will save that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stanton. Ms. Harvey? Ms. Williams?
I have nothing.
Ms. Byrne? Mr. Kanka?
Sorry, guys. I could just say that I've lived in Hamilton Township my whole life. I attended the schools here, and back in the early 60s, maybe 63 or 64, I can't remember, 2 schools were built, and that was this school and Grice. And a few years later, we had Steiner that was constructed, I believe it was in 67 or so. And then we took a hiatus for about 15 years, and Crockett was built. But 42 years later, we've had nothing built in this township. We got buildings that have exceeded well over 100 years old. We've torn boilers out that were 50, 60 years old. We've put multiple roofs on because back in the 80s and the 90s, the big thing was we're not going to raise taxes, but when they didn't raise taxes, they didn't fix any of the buildings that we had at that time that may have been 50 or 60 years old. So in the past 10 or 12 years, we've had an aggressive agenda of addressing multiple things in this district, such as roofs, infrastructure within the existing buildings in this township. And we have an opportunity now to move a little bit forward after we've been sitting around for 42 years. So I just want to reiterate that it's a big step. It's a cautious step that we're taking. Everybody's looking at every single thing that's going on. People say that we're rushing into things. I don't believe that we are. If there's something that's going to keep us from moving forward, there's a bunch of intelligent people up here that will make that decision. So it's a program that's has a time stamp on it, and we're going to move into that direction, and hopefully it'll and I know for a fact it'll help out our younger future students in this district. We've had multiple people come up over the years that I've been on this board complaining about test scores, which has already been brought up, and you can't improve scores if you don't educate children. So that's the purpose of this, to get the early kids going into an environment that they will be used to when it comes to getting into the tougher things in their curriculum, such, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. So I just wanted to say, I think it's a good thing. There's people that are going to be against some things that we do, and I understand that. I also understand some of the emails I received, and I thank you for those emails, and I also thank all the people that came here tonight with their opinions on what we should be doing. But we're moving forward with the blessing of the help that we're getting from the county, and I think it's a good thing. So, and I also want to thank Mrs. Harvey for her comments about why we're doing this and what lane of traffic we're in at this time. So That was a good analogy you put out there. We're right now, we're not in the fast lane, like she said. So when we get to that point, you'll all know. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, and thanks to everybody for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. King.
May I make a comment?
Yes, Ms. Harvey.
I just want to let everyone know that for the last 5 years, I've sat with Mr. Kanga on the Finance Committee that he's the chair of. And if you can tell just from his monthly reports, the amount of passion and detail that he puts into understanding our buildings and making sure that we are doing the right steps. I have full confidence that we are methodically going through this process, and I want to assure the community that we are taking our time to analyze these things. And we do thank the public for bringing things to our attention, because I personally know that Mr. Kanko reviews all of that with his expertise that he's had for decades of experience in building and understanding how buildings are built and operate in construction. So,
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. So
Did
Sam-
you pay for that endorsement, Mr. Kanga?
It was a stipend.
So seeing that I have no other comments from the board under other business, do I have a motion to
Motion
adjourn?
raised.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.